soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who do just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret, silver wings.
Welcome to the United Constitutional Patriots radio show with your host, Johnny and Chuck. I will now turn it over to Johnny. Johnny, go ahead and take over on the show.
Thank you very much, Pete. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the United Constitutional Patriots radio. Our news that we give is true news. Our guests are true guests. We have a very special guest tonight after Chuck gives the news. We have Chris Browse, who was the chief of the fire department in Burns, Oregon, when the standoff took place, and he's the one that actually exposed a lot of what the feds were doing. He will be our special guest tonight. And then after he is finished, we will cover some other things going on. But the one thing I do want to say, our guests, we do not in any way interfere with what they're saying. When they have the floor, we let them give it all. We do not edit. We do not tell them what they can say, and we do not in any way whatsoever try to have them change any of the facts. So to start off with, Chuck, go ahead and bring the most pressing in the news, and then we'll bring Chris on.
All right, sir. We will do that. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and we're glad that you could join us once again for this, our Wednesday evening Constitutional Patriots Radio. And as I'm sure you'll remember, you're normally used to for quite a few cues and what have you. Well, tonight, less busy, so we actually only have about one cue. And then we're going to cover a few a few very interesting news items that have come in today. Some will be very interesting to you. We're going to be covering tonight is we're going to be covering the fires in California and Oregon. That's why we've got the chief on here with us. And we'll be covering we're going to be covering a situation in New Mexico. Those couple of items, among other things, and so we will be covering a few pertinent news items in just a few minutes, and then we'll get down to business with our subjects for the evening. First, we have cue number 1825. And this came in last night, or late afternoon, yesterday, August the 7th. He reposted a cue from August the 6th, the day before, that said the bill that opened the door for Twitter, Facebook, Google, etc., and control. Okay. There was a bill before Congress that was passed that made it possible to pay certain alternative media, along with your regular mainstream media, to if you will. Which is why some of those alternative guys turned against Q. Okay, so he says the bill that opened the door for Twitter, Facebook, Google, etc. to censor and control, when it gives a bill. And by the way, again, website you want to go to is https QAnon. That is the page where the Q posts are at. Okay. Bots, think foreign propaganda. Q. Then he added to that, test and understand the foundation to support censorship, conservatives, and there is a Reddit article or something that was posted on Reddit on the Great Awakening board on Reddit. Says, here we go, HR 5181 was stuffed into the 2016 NDAA on 12/02/16. Basically, $160 million was set aside to pay alternative media journalists, among others, information to counter what they claim is fake news, aka the truth. This is why so many Q. Okay. Then he says, all in midterms, their entire future depends on winning a majority in the House. Q. Now, the Democrats are all in for this blue wave they talk about, but if you watched the elections last night, news for you on that. If you watched the elections coverage last night, there was no blue wave. A red tsunami, if you will, because, ladies and gentlemen, we can report to you now here at Official Patriots Radio. We can report to you, okay, all 5 of the that were by President Trump, endorsed by President Trump, all 5 of them won the races last night. By the way, if you're familiar with Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, being is the future of the Democratic Party, well, if she's their future, they ain't got one because every candidate she endorsed lost right last night. Okay, now I'll cover a few news items here before we turn back over to Johnny, and he can guests for tonight and more coverage of some of this stuff that we're going to be talking about. All right, first of all, from Israel Breaking on Twitter. As you may well know, just a few days ago, Israel and I think it was Hamas, if I'm not mistaken, entered into a 5-year, what they were calling a 5-year truce. The truce didn't last 5 days. Because today they've been going at it again, and for several hours now, for over 6 hours. They've been ongoing rocket launches out of Gaza into about 45 minutes ago. A barrage going on now, and there was a Israel Breaking actually posted a video showing Israeli tanks moving up to the Gaza border. There's been an escalation going on there throughout the day today, and we will endeavor to keep you posted on that. Now, then we have this little news item for you. Okay, General Mad Dog Mattis on protecting U.S. Okay, it says Mattis. This is on CBN News. This is from CBN News, Christian Broadcasting Network News.com. Mattis on protecting U.S. elections solely on one country. Washington, the Defense Department will provide all support necessary to Homeland Security and law enforcement agencies to protect U.S. elections from Russian interference. Actors, bad actors are them what likes to steal elections with phony election machines and what have you. And other bad actors, Defense Secretary James Mattis vowed Tuesday, happened in 2016 when the Russians and possibly others, the Russians didn't, for certain, tried to both influence operations. Well, they did on the side of Hillary, the election process. Mattis told members of the press outside the Pentagon Tuesday morning while waiting for the arrival from the UK. There's also other activities that went on directly ascribed to official Russia. Military Times quoted this defense secretary, but we watch for all of it, and we can trace at least parts of it. Government. Mattis added that DoD agencies know what to look for in supporting Homeland Security and state local election officials of the midterm elections. What we've done and all of those things and engage with the support of DHS to maintain the integrity of the election. Specify what U.S. Cyber Command and the National Security Agency are doing. He did note that the intelligence officials about more than just the Russians. We are focused on protecting the elections themselves, so we are looking at both this influence peddling and the corrupting and violating of the integrity of the elections and those activities that are in direct support of law enforcement and the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, so they are working to ensure the selection, and you notice he said also from bad actors. Well, we know who actually leading up to the election in 2016, who actually lock, stock, and barrel election and yet lost. Okay. They're going to be making sure that none of that happens again. They're going to have Homeland Security officials in every voting of the country. Plus, they're also looking at President Trump is looking at probably signing some kind of an executive order where you will have to have, for voter ID, where you'll have to have, basically have to have ID to be able to vote. The number of dead Democrats voting and would curtail a number of illegal voters as well. They're working for us to see to it that our elections have this item. Okay, this one coming from Gateway Pundit, and you will find this, especially anybody and everybody who has been following Q since late October. I've been following Q since early November. About him, but if you've been following Q for any length of time, this will be interesting to you because this has been talked about on the boards and it's been talked about posted on by Q and so on. U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee calls on WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. WikiLeaks considering offer. Julian Assange is the one man who knows the Podesta Clinton emails to WikiLeaks. Well, he's not the only one who knows. His name was Seth Rich. Okay. It took the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee a year and a half to call him in for questioning. The U.S. Congress is not serious about the Russian collusion story. All right. There's a letter here from the United States Senate Select Committee It's October 1st, 2018, and it says, Dear Mr. Assange, as you are aware, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence is conducting a bipartisan inquiry into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election. As part of that inquiry, the committee made yourself available for interview with bipartisan committee staff at a mutually agreeable time and location. Please respond in writing upon receipt of this letter. If you have any questions about this, contact the committee counsel at, and he gives the phone number, sincerely. And the two guys that signed this are Richard Burr, committee, and then the vice chairman, Mark Warner. Now, Mark Warner, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is a Democrat. But according to this, again, they are now saying that Julian Assange, head of WikiLeaks, come in and testify. So that's news. Okay, now cover a couple of items here. Before I get to the main items, we'll cover a couple other things. Okay. California, Danville, California. Oh. Okay, in Danville, California, they are Danville Police Department. By the way, I live in Danville, Indiana, so this is rather interesting. The Danville Police Department will conduct an active threat training 9th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at High School at 186 Delamigo Road. The agency said today, active threat training allows Danville Police Department to update and refine skills needed to provide the community with the highest level of service possible, the department said. So, basically, here we go. Shooter drill tomorrow at the Danville High School in Danville, California. Now, interestingly enough, many times we've had these kinds of drills going on, and then immediately following that, or around the same time, flag. So we need to keep our eyes open at that, okay? And reports today, President Trump, this is some nice news, folks. President Trump has created $7 trillion since the election, 3.7 million new jobs, 5 million people lifted off food stamps, 400,000 new manufacturing jobs, the lowest unemployment rate in half a century, 4.1 gross domestic. Okay, so some big things happening under President Trump. Okay, now we're here is we have a situation in New Mexico going on in New Mexico right now that we in the United Constitutional Patriots are keeping a close eye on. And I will allow the Commander Johnny, to elaborate on that a little bit, but I want to read an article or two here just for your information. All right, and this is from the prosecutors in the case. Muslim extremists used New Mexico compound to train child school. You heard that right. Now, just a couple of days ago, I believe yesterday or the day before, we received reports that they had found a compound in New Mexico that was filthy. There were 11 children living there. Squalor. They found the body, I believe, of a 3-year-old child there, or the remains of a 3-year-old child buried out there. This article says, according to prosecutors, Amelia, New Mexico compound, where 11 children were rescued from squalor last week, I guess it was last week, was being used to train to become school shooters. The father of a missing Georgia boy was 3 years old. They may have found the missing Georgia boy down there. Was training children at a New Mexico compound to commit school shootings. In court, documents obtained Wednesday. Associated Press. Okay, the documents say Siraj Ibn weapons training with assault rifles at the compound near the Colorado border where 1,100 children the conditions. Ibn Wahaj is the father Haj, who went missing from Jonesboro, Georgia. The police believe that they have found the remains of the boy on the compound, but he has yet to be positively identified. Ibn Wahaj is described, okay, as a Muslim extremist. Ibn Wahaj was arrested at the compound with another adult male, and 3 women were also arrested in connection with the compound raid. Harouj Wahaj, 38, Subhana Wahaj, 35, LaVille, Janny LaVille, 35, are now inmates at the Taos Adult Detention Center. So, it's worse by the moment because also found out, okay, interesting. This was from another website. It says the Associated Press conspicuously failed to report that one of the men arrested at New Mexico compound for child abuse, which included training children how to shoot up schools, is Siraj Wahaj Jr., New York City imam, and unindicted World Trade Center bombing co-conspirator Siraj Wahaj. But that's okay because plenty of people saw training the children to commit school shootings and were only too happy to blame. Okay. Now, folks, this is a serious situation because we were also told by one of ours here at United Constitutional Patriots a short time, just a little bit ago. He's not here with us at the moment. Just that this guy has a jihad, if you will, against. Well, so we have a serious situation here, or could have a serious situation that we're looking into. And so there is that. Now, issues that we're going to be describing, that we're going to be discussing tonight, is the California fires in Southern Oregon, I believe it is. And these things are, this thing gets worse, seems to get worse by a minute. Evidence that we've been looking at the past few days that these have in fact been caused, being fired from drones. Okay. So the purpose for the setting of the fires was to try to extort money out of the federal government because the president has to send federal funding to the state of California because they've made themselves a sanctuary state. So that's the kind of a situation we've got going on out there. And we've looked at, few days, folks, we have looked at photographs that show some interesting things. We saw one photograph that showed a whole neighborhood block street is completely incinerated. It's gone, and just across the street, it's untouched. Half of a car sitting in the center of a road that's been incinerated, and the metal part of the wheels had just been melted all over the road that had been planted in a field next to the road, untouched. Photographs of trees burning from the inside out. Okay, these kinds of things don't happen in normal forest fires. Reports today, okay, one from KDRV News, Taylor and Klondike fires complete updated evacuations. And it says, the Josephine County Sheriff's Office has issued a number of level 1. If I can get these pop-ups to quit popping up on me. Here we go. A number of level 1, 2, and 3 evacuation notices for areas near the Taylor Creek Fire west of Merlin, formerly part of the Garner Complex, and the Klondike Fire west of Selma. Grants Pass, Oregon. The Josephine County Sheriff's Office evacuation orders and notices for areas threatened by the Taylor Creek Fire, formerly part of the Garner Complex west of Merlin, and the Klondike group with the fire west of Selma throughout southern Oregon. The announcements are sometimes preceded by deputies delivering the news door to door to the affected areas. Announcements from JCSO generally do not to the affected areas, but Newswatch 12 will try to provide maps when possible. Oh, they got a serious situation going on there. And by the way, I believe our commander informed me earlier that west of Marlin, that's getting very close to the redwoods out, those giant redwoods out there, which is a sad situation right there. Some of them things have been there for a long, long time. Okay, and then we have this, and it says, if it'll come up for me, okay, it's happening right now. 5.5 military operations in California. Now, folks, D5 is Directive 5, which when they put Directive 5 into operation, it allows for the military then to take part in domestic operations such as fighting these fires. President, kind of down in the rear end, because instead of sending money, he sent in the military to help fight the fires. And so there's a military operation going on out there in California right now to help fight these fires. And see what it says down here. Okay, it says, all right, let's see, California government website goes on to say, presidential major disaster declaration helps people in the impacted counties through eligible for programs and support assistance. Okay, so yeah, they have got a military operation going on out there. Directive 5. The government website doesn't say is that this declaration gives the military and the NSA, the National Security Agency, legality to fully operate inside the borders of California under DOD, Department of Defense, D5525.5, Department of Defense Directive, state that the military will support local law enforcement agencies. Directive 5 speaks of the responsibilities of the military operation during disaster declarations. Section 5.5 of Directive 5 states the director the agency chief Central Security Service, Director NSA, CH, shall establish an appropriate guidance for the agency and Central Security Service. Okay, in short, the military and the NSA are required to operate in declarations. Enclosure 2 goes on to state that all intel gathered that must be turned over to local authorities for prosecution of criminal activities. It's happening now. Point out right quick that not only does Directive 5 give the military and the Department of National Security inside California, okay, with regards to these fires, Directive 5 also gives the military and the Department of Homeland Security the authority in many kinds of domestic emergencies and domestic situations, might we say, the arrest of black hats. Kind of leave it right there and let others here tonight elaborate on that if they wish. But, folks, this is just some of the stuff that we've got going on. We got this one just a little bit ago. This one says, crews, Odell, Oregon. This is in Odell, Oregon. Fire crews have contained a 2-acre brush fire in Odell, Oregon. U.S. Forest officials said firefighters evacuated a total of 5 homes along Y East Road to the Canyon Road fire and shut down the road itself between Drive and Central Vale. The officials say there's currently a wet line around the fire perimeter and that the crews are in mop-up stage. On what started the fire. Okay, so that particular fire that they've got under control, which, ladies and gentlemen, is very good because I'm told again by my commander who used to live out in that area somewhere. I'm told that particular area right there, it'd be kind of difficult to fight fire in there because that is all. So let's see. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Our friend Patriot Cowgirl posted this one, so I'm going to read this one more before I turn it over to the commander. Let's see, looks like this might be a Twitter post. Scotty Shop, U.S. Marine Corps, posted this. It says, happening now in Little Rock, Arkansas. Well, we know who came from there. Justice 747 is being loaded. Documents by federal agents from Little Rock's FBI office at Lit. Clinton Foundation. Question mark. This is huge. Okay, so apparently, as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, there's a Department of Justice 747 being loaded with documents by federal agents from Little Rock's FBI office, probably having something to do with the Clinton Foundation. And gentlemen, it is indeed happening. Ladies and gentlemen, I will turn this show to our commander, Johnny, for the rest of our show. Take it away, Johnny.
Thank you, Chuck. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker, Chris, I do not want anybody to interrupt him at all. Let him go through. Let him tell what's going on, because I will have some questions for him about these fires that are going on too. Like I said, the fire chief, he walked away from the Burns, Oregon situation because of what he's seen. He will explain all of that. And it's a pleasure to have you on, Chris. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you, brother.
You bet, sir. I'm glad to help.
So go ahead and let's let these people know what's going on and what you had to experience and everything is going on. Real quick before you do, though, I do want to say something. Ryan Bundy is running for the governor of Nevada. And I talked to him. He will be one of our guest speakers Friday with Mrs. Finnegan, Janet. She will also be one of our guest speakers. And this is big, folks. Ryan Bundy has asked for our help. He has to come up with $50,000 to be on the forum to be able to argue his cause. Now, we've already, through our friends, through our friends that one of them is a direct advisor to President Trump, have sent word to him also to see if we can get President Trump to support him. Now, for those of you, please get a pencil. Now, we're going to cover this one more time after the show. You can send check or money order to Ryan Bundy for governor at 336 Riverside, Mesquite, Nevada, 89027. That's Ryan Bundy, Bundy for governor, check or money order to 336 Riverside, Mesquite, Nevada, 89027. Folks, let's support this man. He's one that was pardoned by President Trump. He went to hell, his family went to hell, and he wants to straighten the state of Nevada out with, and any place else he can help. So I'd appreciate it. If you would, please dig deep. Let's help this man meet his goal. Let's him get him into the governor's office in Nevada. And okay, now what I'd like to do is go ahead and turn this over to you, Chris, and thank you.
You're welcome. And before I start on any of my stuff, I will just say right now that Ryan Bundy is one of the finest men that I've ever known. Him and Ammon are incredible people. They are absolutely 100% totally honest. They are very well educated on the Constitution. Ryan Bundy will make a huge difference, a huge positive difference in government. I support him 100%. I hope he is the next governor of Nevada.
Well, we all agree with you there, my friend.
I never say anything I don't really mean. And we need more people like Ryan Bundy in our government. We need less people in there that don't have any backbone.
Okay.
Ryan has got it.
One other thing real quick, and I'm sorry I usually do this to start with, but Mike, I forgot to, or Chris, if you don't mind, I want to thank Greg Clark. He is one of the sponsors of us that is live feeding us. We are live feeding to Washington, D.C. We are live feeding through several other entities that are backing us. And I especially want to thank the people that in the political end of this field in Washington that has made this radio show possible. And I really appreciate it. One thing, we have Tom Davis from out there in Oregon, where you're at, a friend of yours. And Tom has already talked to you about this. The show, he's the one that notified you and is highly appreciated. But we also have Patriot Girl, who is out of Oregon. We've got Copperhead out of Alabama. We got Tennessee Rose on. She used to be on another radio show we were on. Welcome, Tennessee Rose. National, like I said, Patriot Girl. We got Pete. We got Chuck. We're all here. So go ahead, and Mike, I won't interrupt you, or Chris, I won't interrupt you again. I keep wanting to call you Mike. I don't know why. So go ahead, sir.
All right. Well, I'm just a guy with two arms and two legs, just like anybody else. I'm nothing special, other than I am a staunch supporter of the United States of America and U.S. Constitution. I think a lot of the stuff in the Constitution has been lost down through the years intentionally by our government, and we need to get it pulled back together and make this country run the way it's supposed to run, with honest people. What happened up here in Harney County, Oregon, I absolutely would not have believed if I didn't live here. I thought that everything was doing pretty good, and then all of a sudden I find out that there was so much corruption in our local government, in our state government. It was just horrible, horrible. What they did to the Hammond family, the ranchers who started a backfire just to protect their own property. They had to pay a $400,000 fine and spend years in prison. President Trump just pardoned them recently, and bless his heart for that. They are good people. They are home. Thank God for that. They are home, and they're doing well. They've had enough. We've got to pull it all together. You know, they're talking about all of these fires and everything. You know, it's really smoky right here, right now. It's smoky in Burns, Oregon, from the fires that are going on in California and other places. I've been to a couple of meetings with the Forest Service where they tell us that we can expect larger and larger fires because that's the best thing for our forest is that we're going to have more and more fires, and they're going to be larger. And I do not agree with that. I think that before the environmentalists, the logging shut down, that the logging
Lost you, John.
we get lumber from Canada and different places in the world. When we have all the lumber we would ever really need if we were to maintain our forests and utilize our resources ourselves. I think that that's very important that the people understand that our forests have been being mismanaged. I have personally been out on some of these forest fires. When I was a fire chief here, I would take my vacation in the summertime and I would go drive a water tender to make extra money, and I thought that I was helping put these fires out. But what I found is that the fires were being managed. And there's a big difference between managing a fire and putting it out. And it is really sad to see the resources and the money that are spent and wasted now that the forests are in such a horrible shape that they are. I mean, it is very sad to me. The logging industry took care of our forests. They didn't ruin them. Granted, way back when they clear cut some areas and they messed it up, that wasn't good. But I think that they learned from that. And when I moved here in 1978, we had all kinds of forests. We had all kinds of people working in them, loggers and stuff like that. And as soon as they shut the logging down, our forests started being shut down. They closed the roads to where you can't access them. You can't even cut the dead trees for firewood. I think it's wrong. think it's extremely wrong. It's hard to explain what I've seen go on. It's very, very sad. Very sad. Harney County, Oregon, at one time was one of the top per capita production counties in Oregon as far as wealth goes. And now they're second to the last. And I blame it on the mismanagement of our forests and our BLM land. Anybody that says the BLM or the Forest Service owns the land truly doesn't understand. The land belongs to we the people. It is supposed to be managed by the BLM. It's supposed to be managed by the Forest Service. And it's been mismanaged so long that we're losing it. We're going to have to stand up and pay attention to what's going on. It's just as much my fault as anybody else that these things occur. We have a tendency to sit back and we're in our own little niche. You know, I was the fire chief, ran the ambulance, and I had all kinds of busy things going on, and I figured everybody was doing their jobs around me. It's sad that they weren't. And I've had people say, well, you know, you need to just get out of this and let somebody else take care of it, because it is labor intensive. But the fact of the matter is that if nobody does anything about it, then absolutely nothing gets done. We have to get out here and start paying attention to what's going on in our county commissioners meetings, in our city council meetings, any of the government that is going on. The people are supposed to be involved with it. And when we sit back and we don't pay any attention and we let everybody else take care of it, we just let the reins go on the horses, and they're going to run wherever they want. And it's very important to me that we get it back the way it's supposed to be in this wonderful country that we have, so that my grandkids and their grandkids can enjoy the same freedoms that I had when I was a young man. I mean, it's scary the way things are getting. And if anybody has any particular questions that they would like to ask me, you can ask me any question you want, and I will tell you exactly what I feel about it. You know, you can't talk about everything that needs to be talked about in one radio show or in one lifetime. It is so messed up. It is messed up. What went on out here at the refuge with the murder of Lavoy is absolutely ridiculous. So when Jeanette comes on Friday, get people on there and pay attention. Pay attention to what Ryan Bundy is saying. Pay attention to what Jeanette Benico is saying. I know both of these people and I support them 100%. They are the salt of the earth. It's kind of awkward to me to just keep talking because I'm not sure which subjects I should cover because I have so many subjects in my head.
Well, cover the ones you think are the most important. One of the things I do want them to know about is I got a phone call from Tom, and he informed me that you were going to go with him up to Lavoy's monument, where they went up there and burned it. And Lavoy told me about it, and he told me he was going to get a hold of you. I guess the next day you and him were going up there. And when he told me what happened there, that was rotten, man.
The things that have gone up at the Lavoy Benico Memorial, I can't say are bad. I can't say that they're evil. They are beyond evil. word, and evil isn't a big enough word. It is just mind-boggling to me that anybody could be so corrupt in their brain to desecrate a man's death site, to desecrate a memorial that people that loved him put up there. The memorial has been taken down, I'd say, at least 10, 12 times. There's 2 times that are documented that one of the local sheriff deputies here in Hardy County tore it down. He said it was a bunch of trash. Why do we need people like that in law enforcement? We don't. I mean, if a man, anywhere you drive, you see memorials for people where they have died. And whatever reason. And for some reason, they single out Lavoy Benicum's and they keep tearing it down. They went up there. There's been times that there was a cross up there that was burned. One of the crosses that had Lavoy's brand on it was burned. And they burned about an acre in the area. You know, why? Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody have such horrible evil inside them that they would desecrate a man's grave? Even to the point, or not his grave, but his death site, even to the point of setting the forest on fire. People have taken crosses and went way up in the tree and put a cross way up in the tree so that people couldn't tear it down. They tied rocks on ropes, they threw it over it and broke the crosses. We've replaced them, they've torn them down. One man took a cross up there, Larry J., and he said, by God, we're going to make one out of metal. He made a metal cross, he had it in concrete, and Lucas McLean was a sheriff deputy that came up, ripped it out of the concrete before it was set up, threw it in his truck, and gave him a $1,200 ticket, or a $5,000 ticket, which was actually extortion because the citation that was issued to Larry J. had a maximum fine of $1,200. Yet the sheriff's deputy gave him a $5,000 ticket and tore the thing out, and then admitted to tearing the memorial down twice himself. Why do people want to be like this? Why? You have to. Lavoy Benicum was an honorable man. He had never even had a traffic ticket. Yep. If a person wants to know anything about Lavoy Benicum, type his name into YouTube and watch the man's videos. You couldn't ask for a finer man to present those subjects to the American public. He was 100% honest. He was 100% dedicated. And he was 100% murdered. I guarantee you that he was murdered. Next week, you'll show it, okay? And it's just sad when you drive by milepost 51C on Highway 395 North out of Burns to see what it's been. There have been crosses and flowers all up and down there, and somebody takes the effort to tear them all up and destroy them. Anyway, let me do that. I'm right in the middle of the show right now. I'll give you a call. And Tom and I have both been by there lots and lots of times, and I've helped. We've planted flowers. We're doing whatever we can to try to keep it going. I contacted the Oregon Highway Department, the Oregon State Highway Department, to put a permanent memorial up there. They were in the process of giving me the permits to do that, and then all of a sudden, when I called them up one day, they said, no, there will be no memorials for Lavoy Benicum. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So somebody got to the Oregon Department of Transportation in Oregon and told them, no, we can't do that. That's wrong. But that doesn't mean that we're going to quit trying to resurrect that memorial. It needs to be resurrected. It needs to be Memorial, Lavoy should never be forgotten. Never be forgotten. Support Jeanette in her wrongful death suit. I know for a fact that Steve Grasty, Nasty Grasty, the Harney County judge, and our sheriff, Dave Ward, have both been served papers on the wrongful death suit that Jeanette is putting forth. She's going to need some help, and our support is needed. What an amazing, wonderful person she is. And she is doing what her husband would have wanted her to do, and she is on track.
Okay, let me interrupt you just for a second. I normally wouldn't do this. I have some breaking news. I just now got a phone call. If you overheard me talking on the phone, I apologize. I just got a phone call update on the Clinton deal. They are in there, and I guess they are cleaning it out. And if the Clintons, who are not there at this moment, show up, there's a really strong possibility they will be arrested.
Hallelujah.
That is the update. I'm sorry. That's not set in stone, but that's what the word is right now.
You don't have to be sorry to me, sir. That needs to happen.
Yes, sir.
That needs to happen. You know, we have a president that's in there, and he's trying to make a difference in our country. He is doing it free. He donates his salary back to the veterans and stuff like that. You know, what kind of a man does it take to do that? I understand he does have a big ego and all of that, but he has made progress. He has helped our country, and I think that he's just like anybody else. He can make a mistake, but I think he learns from them, and I think his intentions are good and pure for our country.
I agree with you 199.9%. I didn't mean to cut you off. I hope you didn't forget what you were talking about. That's why I don't like to cut anybody off. But this was news that I figured should come out so we can get it out there immediately.
Oh, that's no problem. You know, I don't know what else you want me to talk about.
Well, I'd like
Lavoy's Memorial up there.
Okay, well, I'd like to pick your brain if I can. And if it's okay, I'll open it up to the board where our board can ask questions if they got any. You were a fire chief. You've seen a lot of fires. You've seen a lot of situations. Now, I was raised in Southern Oregon, and hate to say it, but our place has gone up in smoke where I grew up on top of Siskiyous. That whole valley, everything in that whole area, I understand, is gone. Now, a Patriot cowgirl, she lives in Medford, not very far from where I grew up. And these forest fires, have you ever seen a fire? The fires are like we're having now, where it's hit and miss, melting cars, just hitting certain places, burning homes down, not touching trees. Have you ever seen anything like that in your experiences?
No, sir, I have not. No, sir, I have not.
Well, we do have proof. We have pictures. They are posted in our newsroom, United Constitutional Patriots newsroom. If people want to come into our newsroom and read the news, they'll see it, where we can actually see the beams that they are shooting down, starting these fires.
I have seen the pictures. That's the only way that I could explain how you could have these fires that burn houses completely out without the trees. You know, it has to be hot and fast to where the heat doesn't even have a chance to get to the local trees. It's usually the trees that catch the house on fire. But you see so many isolated areas that are just pinpointed out and burnt. And if you get to looking around them, there's no other fuel around them. And so how did they light? How did they ignite without heat?
The only way.
You have to have oxygen, you have to have fuel, you have to have heat.
Yes, sir. And the only way that I know that that could happen would be through a laser of some type. Now, as a kid, like I said, I grew up in the logging industry with my stepdad, and there was many a fire that I was on a D8 cat cutting fire line, and I've seen fires do strange things, but I've never seen anything like this.
Right. And also, let me bring up the fact here. You tell me if I'm wrong. When you were a young man and the loggers were out there and they were working and they heard of a fire, what happened? Did they keep logging?
No, everybody banded together and they went to that fire. That was their livelihood, those trees.
That's exactly right, and that's exactly what happened here. Any time that there was a fire, absolutely every available hand took off to go and help it. People from town would go up. The ranchers were up there. Why would the ranchers be up there? Because their cattle were grazing up there. Their cattle are their livelihood.
Yep, and they used them on they range fed them. They range fed them during the summertime, and they bring them in the fall.
Exactly. I saw a thing here recently where they're talking about there's areas where there's a lot of foliage and stuff like that maybe the cattle wouldn't even eat. That they're going in and they're grazing it off with goats and getting rid of the fine fuels. You know, they have to be managed. They have to be taken care of. You know, we've let them get bad, and then it is a natural thing. They're going to all burn up, and when they all burn up, then so do a whole bunch of houses. And what happens to our air quality? What happens to our people? What happens to our economy? It doesn't. None of it helps our economy.
Well, that's right, and that is one of the things. You remember the Baker Fire over at off of 199 in Grants Pass. About I guess been about 15 years ago. It was a huge fire. Anyway, that did the same thing. Nothing left but standing dead timber everywhere.
And then they won't let you log it.
Yep.
You know, right after a forest burns, if they get in there, yes, it is a filthy job. Yes, everybody is just totally black, but they can still log it and they can get good, viable timber out of it if they get right in there.
They used to call it salvage sales.
Yeah, salvage logging, salvage sales.
Yep. We did a lot of them down the Klamath National Forest down in
salvage sales when they would see the beetles were getting bad in an area and the forest was getting sick or diseased. They would have a salvage sale and get rid of the diseased and sick trees.
Then they go in and replant.
And replant it and reforest it and maintain it. You know, you hear people say, well, the ranchers, they go up in there and they graze it all off to where it just ruins the land. Can you imagine any rancher that's going to continue to be in business that ruins his own grazing? They would not do it.
No.
They can't. They can't afford to do that. They take care of the land. If there's a rancher up there that grazes it clear down to nothing, well, I can guarantee you that he won't be a rancher very long.
That is very true.
Just think about it. You know, the ranchers have been stewards of the land since the very first day. They know what it is. They know. They're out there. They're riding there. They're paying attention. They can see the positive and the negative, and they know how to make a positive. But they're not allowed to because our forests are being managed.
Well, actually, it's the environmentalists. It seems like the so-called Forest Service became environmentalist.
Yeah.
You know, they had
cattle free in 83 and those kinds of things, stuff like that. You know, they don't want cattle out there on the forest. They don't want anybody to log it. They don't want anybody to do anything. They say it's natural for it all to burn down, so they don't really care about the trees. But every dang one of them lives in a house and uses wood byproducts in their normal life.
You know, if you really stop and think of it, there isn't too much you can find in any home that didn't come from a wood product.
Exactly. Go out there and try to wipe your butt with a wire brush and see how you like that. That don't work.
It's very true. However, I'll tell you what, I really appreciate having you on, and I'd like to have you on again where we can cover some other things, if that's okay, Chris.
I would be glad to. Like I say, you ask me a question, and I will answer it to the best of my ability.
That's all that we can ask. And again, I would like to bring in on Ryan Bundy. He's running for governor for the state of Nevada. He needs to come up with $50,000 before they have their forum. This man needs funding bad. He will be on our show Friday. He's 100% constitutionalist and for the American working man. To send funds to help Mr. Bundy, send it to Ryan Bundy, Bundy for governor, by check or money order to 336 Riverside, Mesquite, Nevada, 89027. And folks, let's put this man in. Let's make it possible. Let's get the funds together. If it's just $10, $20, $30, $50, with all the amount of listeners we have that are nationwide, if everybody sent him $20, he would have what he needs. So please,
Exactly.
I'm asking you to help him. Even if you don't live in the state of Nevada, and as a governor of Nevada, he can make things happen through other states by him being governor. And we need to pull together and make this thing work for everybody. And again, I want to thank you so very much for being on, and I ask you to hang on the phone for a bit after our show is over with, if you don't mind, so we can visit. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to bring up and ask Chris? If you do, please feel free.
Hey, yeah, I got two things for you, Chris. Let's talk about 2007 out here west of Riley at mile marker 82, talking about the fire that was started and consumed 5,000 acres by a BLM employee out joyriding in fine fuels, heavy load, dry day, got his pickup stuck, created a fire, had the door locked, couldn't get in the pickup, burnt the pickup down, and burnt 5,000 acres. Can you talk about that one? Also, whenever the deputy took the cross, that was the metal cross from the site up there, describe what was left on that hole, that bag of poop that he pooped in that bag, and the rounds of live ammunition that he left there.
That is true, and that's one of the things that is absolutely beyond evil. There was a cross up there. Somebody went up and dug it out, and in the hole they put a bag, a Safeway paper bag full of poop, fresh poop, and then they put on top of it unfired 357 Magnum and 9mm cartridges. Somebody said that that's a death threat or something like that. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. How could anyone be that polluted in their brain? I mean, it is absolutely horrible. The other incident out there, out by Glass Butte, the BLM runs all over the place in gas-operated vehicles on roads that they won't let us drive on because there's fine fuels, grass, cheatgrass, sagebrush, and stuff like that that very conveniently gets caught up in the catalytic converter and causes fires. I've been out on several fires caused by catalytic converters. Why is it that the BLM and the Forest Service have vehicles that are gas operated? I don't think the BLM and the Forest Service should even own a vehicle that's not a diesel operated thing. Why should they run around and think that start fires. And, this particular individual, he goes out there and he's doing whatever he's doing. He makes a mistake just like any other human could make, but it burns up 5,000 acres. The Bundys burnt less than 100, or not the Bundys, the Hammonds burnt less than 140 acres trying to save their ranch. They go to prison. They pay a $400,000 fine. This fella that did this is now in charge of the BLM in Burns. Can you see a difference?
Oh, Lord.
Can you see a difference?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, it's not right. The guy, Jeff, didn't set that ground on fire, but there were no repercussions. He just said, feces to curves. But, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it fair, and it certainly isn't the same for the common citizen as it is for a government employee.
That's definite, it looks like.
And let that sink in.
Wow.
The people that are out there and they're trying to enforce the law, they should follow the law.
Well,
and the law should have something to do with common sense.
Well, when you become a law enforcement officer, I know because I've worked law enforcement for a lot of years, you take an oath, and that is to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And any officer that doesn't do this is not upholding the Constitution. We all know that they didn't uphold the Constitution. We all know the United Nations and Mercs were involved in the deal out in Burns, Oregon. And it was a direct violation, not of just the people involved in this, but every citizen of Harney County. And
every citizen of the United States of America.
Well, yes. But hopefully this is all going to be settled. And I know that there's a lot of angry patriots out there over what has happened. And now these patriots have to take that anger and just pit it and figure out how to deal with situations if they happen again, but in a manner to where it won't come back to bite us in the rear, but be able to uphold the Constitution and as citizens and as patriots of the United States of America.
I agree with you 100%.
We can't just go out and shoot people.
It's not that we can't be afraid to speak out. I want to tell you something that absolutely broke my heart and made me cry. And I actually cried when people started calling me a hero for quitting in Harney County. Simply because I stood up and I did what I felt I should do. Now, when people call and they think that you're a hero for doing that, that is extremely sad to me, because that lets me know that there aren't that many people out there that aren't afraid to speak what's in their mind and speak the truth and stand up for what's right. It's either right or wrong. It's pretty easy to figure out if something's wrong, you don't do it. And if it's right, you do it.
But
and if you're speaking the truth, that's the right thing to do.
But
people called me a hero, and it broke my heart to see that our country is in such a condition that in the United States of America, a man can't stand up and speak the truth without being afraid of repercussions.
Well, see,
we live in fear, and we should not.
Well, the way I look at it is this. I'll tell you why. You are a hero because you resigned for the right reasons. You were not going to back the corruption and stand and watch it. They had your hands tied. You did what any true patriot would do. And you turned around and you were already a patriot, but you made a mark to show that you would not stand with corruption. And with what you were up against up there with the county, everybody involved, you were a hero, because by walking away the way you did, either way could have got you killed. But you walked away and you continued your battle, and that is a hero to me.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
Hopefully you understand what I'm saying, because, you know, they want us to live in fear. The government wants us to fear them. That is not at all what the Constitution was set up for.
That's true.
Please, 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 everyone, read and study the Constitution. My God, how many people have read all these novels and all these things and got all these favorite books and everything like that? And the Constitution wouldn't even cover hardly 2 chapters of any of the books that they've read. But it's so much more important than any other written work in the United States of America. We need to study the Constitution, understand it, and follow it. And do whatever we can to make sure that our government follows it. The government is supposed to be in fear of us. We are not supposed to be in fear of the government.
By Constitution.
Please read your Constitution. Talk to Ryan Bundy about the Constitution. The man knows the Constitution inside and out. Talk to Hammond Bundy. Talk to Cliven Bundy. You could have talked to Lavoy Benico. Lavoy Benico knew so much, and he was reaching so many people that they murdered him.
That is very true.
And you say, you know, maybe I could die or something like that. Well, that's fine and dandy. If they want to come for me, that's fine. I'm a really nice old dog, but boy, do I ever bite hard.
There you go. That's the same way, like I say.
I was born and raised in Colorado, and we didn't have a single ostrich there, so I never learned how to stick my head in the sand.
Well, and that's what America has done by letting things happen the way it has. But America is waking up. America is waking up. And
I hope so.
Like I said, it's been such a pleasure having you on here tonight. And I want to welcome you back. Anytime you want to come on, we're willing to listen. Anything you want to cover, we're willing to let you do it. Because it's folks like you that reach out, that's not afraid to speak their mind. And we're going to make a difference. We are making a difference. And we need to stand behind President Trump 199% and help him reach the goals that he has set for America. Help making not making America great again. America's already great, and it's going to stay great.
Thank you for saying that.
Yes, Pete.
About the iron oxide, are they starting some of these bonfires in California on iron oxide? Because I see trees burn from the inside out.
Aluminum oxide.
Aluminum oxide. Yeah, we have videos on that where they're saying they're using aluminum oxide, spraying it on the fires instead of fire retardant.
I haven't been there to see it personally, but I have seen some of the pictures. I've seen the photographs. I've seen the destruction, and those are not natural. Those are not natural.
I don't see anything natural about it.
Nature wouldn't do that. And it's sad. The fires in California, people say, well, you know, even the ones that are up in the forest or burning in the heavy vegetation areas, why is that? Why is it that they're so hot when it's just a forest fire that hasn't been started by a laser? It's because there's too much fuel. It's because they have not been managed.
And that is the point.
And now these other fires and stuff are being set. You know, I see where some guy got popped in California for setting 6 or 7 forest fires and stuff like that. I really wonder if they just didn't find somebody to throw under the bus to divert them away from thinking about what's going on.
And I made that statement earlier before the show when we were in our discussion room. I made that statement that sounds to me like they were looking for a patsy.
Yeah, scapegoat.
That's exactly it. So,
you know, when we were kids, you hear about all of these conspiracy theories, and you always shook your head and went, "Oh God, those people are all crazy." You know, those conspiracy theories. How many of those conspiracy theories have came true? 100% true. We need to pay attention to what's going on out there. There's a lot of evil out there. There's a lot of good people out there too. But it's when the good people sit back and they don't stand up against the evil that the evil starts to win.
That is very true. Nobody could have said it better than that.
The problem is too many people are out there pointing their fingers all different directions, and nobody will take responsibility for their own actions. I think that if there's a problem out there, people need to sit down and say, okay, what's the problem? Is there actually a problem? If there's a problem, what's it going to take to fix it? Who cares whose fault it is? What's it going to take to fix it? And let's fix it. Because when people are pointing fingers all different directions, nothing gets done.
That is very
true. People decide, well, I'm not going to do anything because it wasn't going to make any difference. When you decide to do nothing, then nothing gets done.
Well, and I believe that each and every true patriot here in the United States has that same feelings at heart. And that's why we are waiting. When we get word, then we will do what we have to do. But until we get word, we're going to stand down. One thing that we have so much corruption within the government that's going to have to be taken care of, that Trump's got his hands full with. And it's just, everything is compiled so high, you got to stop. You got to start at the top of the pile and work your way down.
You got to keep making forward progress.
That's
Even
right.
Even if it doesn't seem like you're getting very much done, you're doing something.
Well, I believe that Trump will be our next president again. I believe what he is doing is going to make a huge, huge difference, even more so than he has here in the United States of America. And we stand behind him 199%, and we always will. And we have each other's backs all the way around, and we have your back.
Well, I appreciate that, sir, and I appreciate you asking me to be on your show. It's an honor.
Well, it's an honor to have you. It really is. And I hope you'll be on more shows with us. You're welcome anytime. And we'll keep in contact, and if anything comes up, let us know. We'll be happy to put you on the air. Tom, he is part of our staff on the show, and you can always reach him if you can't reach me. Another one, I don't know if you know Patriot Girl or not, but she's a good source right there in Oregon. But all of us, we stand together, we stand united. And that is what we have to do to make the difference.
And one of the things that's going to help, if we can support Ryan Bundy for governor, he will lead by example. And what you said about other states maybe following suit, you know, there's a lot of times when things need to be done, everybody sits back and waits for somebody to do it. And then after they finally do it, then they say, well, okay, that's a good idea. And so we do need leaders. We do need leaders because we do have people that will follow a good leader. And Ryan Bundy is a good leader.
Well, if I didn't believe that, I sure wouldn't sponsor him. because I watched what that man went through. Each and every one of us that were involved with between the Bundy Ranch and out in Oregon, we've seen the world change in the United States. We've seen things that we didn't think we'd ever see. And now, I've mentioned it several times, we're going to try to get to Caddo Lake. I don't know if you're familiar with it, down in Louisiana on the Texas-Louisiana state line. They're trying to land grab down there right now the same exact way. And we will be covering it here in hopefully in our next few shows. But we get so many guests coming in now that it's hard to get to it. And there's one individual that has all of the information on this, and I've got to contact him. But I want to get all of this, all of our speakers that we have lined up, which you probably know most of them, Chris. But we're going to have to get on this before they succeed in doing the same thing that they're down in Louisiana and Texas that they're trying to do right now.
It's going on all over the place. It's going on all over the place.
Yes, it
if
is.
You just go to Google and search Patch of Heaven. I don't know if you're familiar with what was going on down there. The Patch of Heaven in Nevada, where a fellow put up a church camp next to a refuge. And the refuge came and wanted to buy his property, and they said no. He had a stream running through his property. He had a baptismal pond from that stream, in the stream. And the Fish and Wildlife said, could we buy this property? And he said, no, this has been my lifelong dream to help people with a church camp. They came in with excavators and dozers, and they rerouted the creek right off of his property without a permission slip from anybody. They just did it whatever they wanted to. They've been fighting it for 8 years now, and they went to the high courts, and they said you have to give them their water back. And what the Fish and Wildlife did is they put a 2-inch PVC pipe there, and they squirted about an inch of water in there that goes in the original stream bed that was 8 feet wide and 6 to 10 inches deep. And the water doesn't go 50 feet down the creek before it's completely gone.
Wow.
A Patch of Heaven. Look it up. Look it up on Facebook.
We will do some.
On YouTube.
We will do
Patch of Heaven.
We will do some research on that.
Ask Ryan Bundy about the Patch of Heaven. I was asked to come down there and speak. I drove all the way down there on my dime to speak. And Ryan Bundy was right there. I spoke right before Ryan Bundy did.
Wow.
At the Patch of Heaven. It's going on all over the place. And we have to get together as a whole. Why did they do the things that they do? Why did they do what they did in Harney County? They came in here and they spread fear, and they caused dissension between neighbors and families and everything else. Because if we'd all stood together, it would have been a bad thing for the government. But they were lucky that they had like 60% government employees here, and they could brainwash them. And that's exactly what they did.
Wow.
We have to stand together. I hope you wrote that down. I hope you research it.
Yeah, Patch of Heaven, we will research it. I guarantee it. And if we can get a hold of the gentleman, we might even cover him if he's willing.
You bet. And that, yeah, Fuentes is their last name. Fuentes. You'll see it. You'll see it.
Okay.
Ryan Bundy can tell you all about it.
Well, if we can get a phone number on him, we will contact him.
Well, that sounds good. I'll send you one.
That will be great. So
this is a cell phone that you're on. I can text it to you.
This is a house phone that I have, but I can give you my cell phone a little bit later.
Yeah.
Okay?
No problem.
So, anybody else have any questions for Chris? Okay, folks. We're going to cover some other things, but we've already been on here for an hour and a half. So we will cover them on our next show. I want to thank everybody for being here. It's highly appreciated. Those of you that are interested in the work that we do at the United Constitutional Patriot Group, we also look for funding too when we can get it, because we are the ones we deploy men to the border for border ops, work with Border Patrol. When there are hurricanes, tornadoes, uh, we are the first boots on the ground to get supplies to them. Uh, like like the hurricanes, we had men and women out with the Cajun Navy rescuing people from their homes, including pulling, as much as I hate to say it, bodies from the water. We got them water, blankets, food, and this is what we do. We support our local law enforcement. We stand behind them 100%. And we stand behind the Constitution of the United States. We do not deviate from it. We are nationwide, and our men and women that are in the United Constitutional Patriots, I am really proud of them. They are dedicated, devoted, which is a stronger word, and they're ready to move when called on. We've even have security units where we've had to send out bodyguards for high-profile people that was being threatened by the government. And that is what we do. We're not a bunch of untrained rednecks running around with guns. 90% of our units are veterans that served overseas, and we're very good at what we do. Our concern, our motive, is to keep America free and protect our Constitution, protect the American people. I don't care what color you are. Color is only a skin color. If you were born in this country, you belong in this country. If you are here legally and you have papers, I have no problem with that. If you're not here legally, go back to the country you come from, file the right papers, and come back, and you'll never have a problem. It's the illegals.
And if you don't like the United States of America, go somewhere else.
Well, the way I put it, I'm more strong with it. As an American and as a veteran, I served my country. And if you don't like our country, if you don't like our ways, get the hell out.
I agree.
And that is all I got to say, except for one thing. Chuck, would you like to close our show tonight with prayer?
I would be happy to do so, sir.
Okay, Reverend Chuck Davis, who is one of our generals, and he is our Patriots pastor. Go ahead, Chuck.
Lord Jesus, we thank you for another opportunity that we've had to come together and do this great work that you've given us to do. We thank you for each and every opportunity that you've given us. We thank you, Lord, for bringing this great team together here, that we can do this work, that we could serve our great country, serve our Constitution, serve our fellow man, serve our president, and above all, serve you. We're thankful, Lord, for another great show and for every opportunity that you give us, and for giving us the strength to do the health and the strength and what to do this work that we're now doing. We ask you, Lord, that you would continue to keep your hand upon our sister, Patriot Cowgirl, that you would continue the healing process on her, bring her back to her full state of health. And we ask you, Lord, to continue now with us throughout this night and into the coming days. Continue to guide us, guard us, and direct us. Draw us ever closer to one another and ever closer to thee. For we do ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Amen. God bless. affair.
Amen to that too.